What happens when an arrogant billionaire invites his shy assistant to an elite party just to provoke her? But she turns out to be so stunning that all the most powerful men in the city start pursuing her. This is the true story of how a simple joke became the most elegant revenge you've ever seen. I warn you, what is about to happen will test everything you thought you knew about power, beauty, and revenge. You won't be able to look away from the screen because every second of this story will keep you on edge. And in the end, I guarantee you'll be speechless. Christopher Hamilton leans back in his Italian leather chair, valued at $45,000, observing from his office on the 52nd floor of the most exclusive corporate tower in Manhattan. At 35 years old, this multimillionaire heir controls a tech empire that extends from Silicon Valley to Austin. But today his mind isn't on business. His blue eyes, inherited from his British mother, fix on the figure working silently on the other side of the bulletproof glass. Sophia Morgan, his personal assistant for the past 3 years, meticulously organizes his schedule while he plans what he considers will be the most entertaining fun of his entire life. The idea emerged during lunch with his millionaire friends at the most exclusive club in Tribeca, when Marcus Thompson commented that he needed something exciting to break the monotony of their privileged lives. Sophia, 29 years old, walks among the marble desks with the unconscious elegance of someone who has been educated in good manners, although her current appearance doesn't reflect it. Her chestnut hair always remains pulled back in a perfect bun. Her thick-framed glasses hide eyes that Christopher has never bothered to really observe, and her conservative clothing in grey and beige tones makes her practically invisible in the luxury world that surrounds her. For Christopher, she is simply another piece of office furniture, efficient and silent, as a good employee should be. However, something in the way she moves, in her naturally erect posture, and in the precise manner with which she handles each document, suggests a lineage that he is too blinded by his arrogance to recognize. For 11 hours daily, Sophia manages Christopher's chaotic life without a single complaint, coordinating meetings with corporation presidents, organizing private jet trips, and handling business secrets that could move the stock market. Christopher's privileged brain functions like a calculating machine while he perfects every detail of his master plan. The annual charity gala of the Manhattan Heart Foundation will be the perfect setting for his personal entertainment, an event where the 400 most powerful men in America gather along with their perfectly groomed wives and their discreet mistresses. Christopher imagines the expression of horror on Sophia's face when she realizes that all eyes are on her for the wrong reasons, when she understands that her boss invited her solely to be the center of elegant mockery from New York high society. The image of Sophia stumbling in her cheap dress, lost among conversations about art and politics she doesn't understand, makes a cruel smile form on his perfectly defined lips. In his twisted mind, this public humiliation will be the most refined entertainment he has ever orchestrated. A masterpiece of cruelty disguised as generosity. Christopher picks up the solid gold phone resting on his ebony desk and dials Sophia's extension with the tranquility of someone accustomed to the entire world obeying his whims. "Sophia, I need to see you in my private office immediately," he says with that authoritative voice he has perfected since childhood in exclusive Swiss boarding schools. Through the glass, he observes how she stands with the natural grace he has never appreciated, adjusts her grey blazer, and walks toward his office with measured and professional steps. Christopher opens the secret drawer of his desk and extracts a golden invitation engraved in relief. The most coveted entry in all of North America. A pass that powerful men have paid up to $250,000 to obtain. The invitation weighs in his hands like the instrument of elegant torture he plans it to be. Each golden letter, a promise of humiliation that Sophia doesn't yet understand. While he waits for her to knock on the door, Christopher mentally rehearses the exact words he will use to set the most sophisticated trap of his life. But what will happen when Sophia hears Christopher's proposal? Will she suspect something, or will she fall directly into the trap he has prepared so carefully? Sophia knocks 3 times on the mahogany door imported from Honduras, waiting for the authoritative response she knows so well after 3 years of impeccable service. "Come in," resonates Christopher's voice from inside his private sanctuary, that 350 square meter space decorated with artwork worth more than the gross domestic product of some small countries. Upon entering, Sophia maintains her perfect professional posture, hands crossed in front of her body, respectful but not submissive gaze, waiting for instructions as she has done thousands of times before. Christopher watches her approach his desk, with that wolfish smile he reserves for his moments of greatest cruelty, studying every detail of her modest appearance to memorize this moment before everything changes forever. The golden light of the New York sunset filters through the panoramic windows, creating an almost cinematographic setting for what Christopher considers will be his masterpiece of psychological manipulation. In the air floats the aroma of his French perfume at $500 an ounce, mixed with the smell of leather from the Italian furniture, and the subtle scent of money that characterizes all spaces where Christopher exercises his absolute power. "Sophia, sit down, please," says Christopher, pointing to the designer chair in front of his desk, using that false tone of kindness he employs when he wants something specific from his employees. Sophia takes a seat with the unconscious elegance that characterizes her, crossing her legs perfectly and placing her hands on her lap while waiting for her boss's instructions. Christopher toys with the golden invitation between his fingers, enjoying every second of this preliminary psychological torture, savoring the power he has over the life of this woman who doesn't suspect what is about to happen to her. "I've been thinking about your performance during these 3 years," Christopher begins, using words like a master manipulator, "and I think you deserve something special, a recognition of your exceptional dedication to this company." Sophia's eyes light up slightly behind her glasses, a spark of hope that Christopher plans to extinguish in the most spectacular way possible. The irony of the situation is delicious to him. He is about to disguise his cruelty as generosity, his sadism as professional recognition. Christopher places the golden invitation on the desk as if it were a sacred relic, watching as Sophia's eyes immediately fix on the paper that shines under the halogen lights on the ceiling. "This is an invitation to the annual charity gala of the Manhattan Heart Foundation," he explains with the solemnity of someone granting the greatest imaginable honor. "The most important social event in all of North America, where the business, political, and cultural elite of our continent gathers." Sophia looks at the invitation with an expression of genuine astonishment, her lips parting slightly as she reads the names of the sponsors, the most powerful surnames in America, Brazil, and Europe, engraved in golden letters that seem to hypnotize her. Christopher continues his master performance, explaining that he needs elegant and professional female representation to accompany him to this crucial event for the corporation's business. Each word leaves his mouth like poisoned honey, each phrase carefully constructed to make her feel special, valued, deserving of this unique opportunity. In his twisted mind, Christopher already imagines the faces of horror and mockery that his millionaire friends will make when they see Sophia appear in her discount dress and her imitation shoes among authentic princesses and multi-millionaire heiresses. "Mr. Hamilton, I don't know what to say," Sophia whispers with a voice that trembles slightly with contained emotion, her fingers barely grazing the edge of the invitation as if fearing it might be a mirage that could vanish at the touch. Christopher smiles with that false paternalism he has perfected during years of manipulating employees, partners, and competitors alike, leaning slightly forward to create a false intimacy that makes Sophia feel special and unique. "You don't have to say anything, Sophia. You've earned it thoroughly," he lies blatantly, knowing that in reality she has earned the respect and admiration he is too narcissistic to genuinely recognize. While he speaks, Christopher is already mentally contacting his club friends to inform them about the new bet. Who will manage to make his little library mouse feel most uncomfortable during the evening? The idea of turning Sophia into the involuntary entertainment of the most powerful men on the continent gives him a perverse satisfaction that surpasses any pleasure he has experienced buying yachts or mansions. In his world of infinite privileges, refined cruelty has become his only real source of strong emotions. While Sophia holds the invitation with slightly trembling hands, Christopher is already executing the next phase of his master plan, taking his personal phone to make a call that will determine exactly how this public humiliation will unfold. "Let me make a quick call to confirm some details," he says, while dialing the private number of Alexander Reed, the most exclusive luxury event organizer in all of New York, a man who has orchestrated royal weddings and presidential dinners. "Alexander, it's Christopher Hamilton. I need a special favor for tomorrow night's gala. I want my companion to be placed at the main table, right in the center of the ballroom, where everyone can see her perfectly. Yes, exactly where all the spotlights concentrate during the speeches. I'll explain the details when I arrive." Then, while he speaks, Sophia observes him with genuine gratitude, shining in her eyes, not suspecting that every word of that conversation is designed to maximize her exposure and consequently her public humiliation. But what secrets does Sophia hide that could completely change this cruel game? And what is she really planning while Christopher believes he has everything under control? Sophia walks toward the elevator with the golden invitation pressed against her chest, her heart beating with a mixture of excitement and nervousness she hadn't felt since her university days at Cambridge, when the world seemed full of infinite possibilities before family tragedy changed her destiny forever. The subway ride to her apartment in Greenwich Village gives her time to process what just happened, observing her reflection in the train car windows while imagining what it will be like to walk among the New York elite she has only known through society magazines. Her mind educated in the best European institutions, though Christopher has never suspected it, begins to analyze every detail of the conversation she just had, every gesture, every word, every inflection in her boss's voice that could reveal the true motivations behind this unexpected invitation. Something in Christopher's smile, too wide and too satisfied, produces an uneasiness she can't completely define, but that her instinct educated in survival warns her not to ignore. During the trip, Sophia remembers fragments of phone conversations Christopher has had in her presence, derogatory comments about employees he considered inferior, and begins to form a clearer image of her boss's true intentions. Upon arriving at her two-bedroom apartment, modest but elegantly decorated with some furniture inherited from her family's golden era, Sophia heads immediately to the entrance mirror and observes herself with a brutal objectivity that surprises even herself. For the first time in 3 years, she really sees the 29-year-old woman hiding behind the grey uniform of the perfect executive assistant, the fallen heiress who chose invisibility as a survival mechanism after the family bankruptcy that destroyed the Morgan textile empire when she was 26 years old. Her hands, soft and cared for despite constant work, reveal a privileged education that includes years of piano lessons, horseback riding, and etiquette at the best schools in Europe and the United States. Her naturally erect and elegant posture betrays an aristocratic upbringing that Christopher never bothered to recognize because his arrogance prevents him from seeing beyond superficial appearances. In this moment of brutal honesty in front of the mirror, Sophia wonders exactly when she decided to become invisible, when she traded designer dresses for grey suits, when she allowed the world to see her as a common employee, when in reality, she is the last heiress of one of the most distinguished families in New York. The sound of the doorbell interrupts her reflections, and Sophia opens the door to find Isabella Martinez, her best friend since university days, a 32-year-old Venezuelan woman who built her own empire in the world of beauty and style after arriving in New York with nothing more than her natural talent and unwavering determination. Isabella enters the apartment like a hurricane of positive energy, carrying bags of beauty products and talking at 1,000 words per minute about her latest famous client, but stops abruptly when she sees the golden invitation on the living room coffee table. "What is that?" Isabella asks in her perfectly preserved Caracas accent despite years in New York, taking the invitation with a mixture of admiration and suspicion that only a woman experienced in masculine power games can immediately recognize. Sophia tells her the whole story of the afternoon, while Isabella examines every detail of the invitation with an expert eye, from the type of paper to the quality of the engraving, mentally evaluating the cost and exclusivity of the event. When Sophia finishes her story, Isabella remains silent for a few seconds that seem eternal, processing the information with the cunning of someone who has survived and triumphed in a world dominated by powerful and capricious men. "My love," Isabella finally says, with a mixture of genuine affection and steel determination, That son of a bitch boss of yours is setting a trap for you. I've known men like Christopher Hamilton since I was 16 and worked cleaning houses in Caracas while dreaming of something better. Isabella gets up from the sofa and begins to walk around the living room like a general planning a battle, her strategic mind already designing counterattacks and defensive maneuvers that could turn the planned humiliation into a spectacular victory. But you know what, Sophia? If he wants to play dirty, we're going to play dirty, only he doesn't know who he's messing with. Isabella continues, her eyes shining with that dangerous spark that appears when she accepts a challenge she considers too tempting to refuse. Sophia observes her friend with a mixture of admiration and terror, knowing from experience that when Isabella Martinez decides to get involved in something, the results tend to be spectacular and unpredictable. The Venezuelan takes out her phone and begins making calls to contacts Sophia didn't even know existed: designers, makeup artists, stylists, even jewelry suppliers who normally work only with celebrities and international millionaires. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. you have an appointment at my private salon, Isabella announces, after a series of conversations in which she mentioned names Sophia had only seen in international fashion magazines. And I warn you that when we're done with you, that Christopher Hamilton is going to need oxygen to keep breathing. Isabella explains her plan, while pouring 2 glasses of Chilean wine she keeps for special occasions, detailing each step of the transformation she has in mind, with the precision of a military strategist planning the most important operation of her career. But while Isabella talks about dresses, makeup, and hairstyles, Sophia feels something deeper awakening inside her. For the first time in 3 years, she has the opportunity to recover not only her dignity, but also the version of herself she buried under years of survival and conformity. But what secrets from Sophia's past will come to light during this transformation? And is Christopher really prepared for the consequences of having awakened the wrong woman? At 3 p.m. the next day, Sophia arrives at Isabella's private salon, located in a restored mansion in Soho, a space that looks more like a European palace than a beauty center, where only the most exclusive clients in New York and Latin America receive treatments that cost more than most people's annual salary. Isabella receives her dressed completely in black, like an orchestra conductor preparing to direct her most important symphony. Surrounded by a team of 6 specialists she has gathered specifically for this transformation. David Richardson, personal makeup artist to 4 Oscar-winning actresses. Francesca Bellini, Italian stylist who has worked for European royalty. Antonio Rivera, colorist who has created the most iconic looks on American television. Jennifer Stone, eyebrow specialist who flies from Los Angeles every month to attend to her exclusive clients. Michael Foster, the manicurist who has cared for the hands of 5 first ladies. And Catherine Wells, wardrobe consultant who dresses the most powerful women in the world. Sophia feels overwhelmed by so much professionalism directed toward her person, accustomed as she is to going unnoticed in all aspects of her daily life. Each specialist examines her with expert eyes, taking mental notes about her bone structure, her skin tone, her hair texture, as if she were a work of art they are about to restore to its original glory. Before we start, Isabella says with ceremonial seriousness, you need to tell me the truth about who you were before becoming Christopher Hamilton's invisible assistant. Because what I see in your posture, in your hands, in the way you speak, doesn't match the story of an ordinary secretary. Sophia feels a knot form in her throat, as memories she has kept buried for years begin to emerge like painful but necessary ghosts. Over the next 3 hours, while the specialists work on her physical transformation, Sophia recounts for the first time out loud the complete story of her fall from New York aristocracy to her current anonymity. Only daughter of Richard Morgan, textile industry magnate who lost everything in a series of disastrous investments orchestrated by partners who betrayed him. Heiress to a fortune that evaporated in 8 months of financial scandals and lawsuits. Economics student at Cambridge who had to return to New York to care for her sick father and look for work for the first time in her life. The irony of working for Christopher Hamilton, heir to the type of man who indirectly contributed to her family's ruin, doesn't go unnoticed by any of the women present in the salon. While David mixes makeup bases to find the exact tone of her skin, Sophia explains how she deliberately chose to become invisible to protect herself from the pain of being recognized as Richard Morgan's daughter, the one who lost everything. The physical transformation process also becomes a process of emotional healing, each step revealing not only the external beauty Sophia had hidden, but also the inner strength she had forgotten she possessed. Francesca frees her chestnut hair from the prison of the perpetual bun, discovering natural waves that fall like a silk cascade to the middle of her back, while Antonio applies subtle highlights that enhance the golden reflections the sun had created for years without anyone noticing them. Jennifer completely redesigns her eyebrows, creating a perfect frame for eyes that David reveals as the most beautiful I've made up in 25 years of international career. The prescription glasses disappear, replaced by contact lenses that allow her hazel eyes to shine with an intensity that hypnotizes even the professionals accustomed to working with the most beautiful women in the world. Each product applied, each technique employed, is designed not to create artificial beauty, but to reveal the authentic beauty Sophia had kept hidden under layers of pain, shame, and survival. Michael works on her hands, eliminating years of office work and revealing the natural softness of someone born to wear designer jewelry instead of filing corporate documents. When it's time to try on the dress Isabella secretly selected, the transformation is already evident to everyone present, but no one is prepared for the visual impact of Sophia completely styled. The dress, an exclusive design by Elie Saab in emerald green that Isabella obtained through contacts in Paris, embraces her figure as if it had been created specifically for her body, revealing curves the grey suits had hidden for years and a natural elegance that no money can buy. The Jimmy Choo shoes, borrowed from a Millionaire client Isabella convinced to contribute to this work of poetic justice, make her walk with a grace that immediately recalls her education in English schools, where protocol classes were mandatory. The necklace and diamond earrings, authentic but discreetly borrowed from a jeweler who owes Isabella several favors, complete a transformation that goes far beyond the physical. It's the rebirth of Sophia Morgan, the heiress who had chosen to hide, but is now ready to reclaim her place in the world that was once hers by birthright. When she looks at herself in the salon's full-length mirror, Sophia sees for the first time in years not an employee trying to go unnoticed, but the powerful and elegant woman she was always destined to be. "Now," Isabella says with a smile that mixes maternal pride with vindictive satisfaction, "that son of a bitch, Christopher Hamilton, is going to learn what it means to underestimate a woman who has more class in her pinky finger than he'll ever have in his entire privileged life." Sophia looks at herself once more in the mirror, and for the first time in 3 years, the woman looking back at her is not a victim hiding from the world, but a goddess preparing to reclaim her throne. But how exactly will Christopher react when he sees Sophia arrive at New York's most exclusive event? And what other surprises have Isabella and Sophia prepared for this night that will change everything forever? At exactly 8 p.m., a black matte Rolls-Royce Phantom stops in front of the main entrance to the Plaza Hotel, where New York's elite is already congregated in the Carrara marble lobby, waiting for the moment to enter the main ballroom of the year's most exclusive gala. Isabella had insisted that Sophia arrive exactly at this time, when all guests were already present, but the formal dinner hadn't yet begun, thus maximizing the impact of her entrance at the moment of greatest social visibility. The uniformed driver, a personal contact of Isabella who normally works for ambassadors and heads of state, walks with ceremonial solemnity toward the vehicle's rear door, while professional photographers hired to cover the event begin to prepare their cameras, automatically assuming they are about to witness the arrival of some international celebrity or European heiress, whose identity they don't immediately recognize. The golden lighting of the hotel reflects on the Phantom's tinted windows, creating a cinematographic effect that makes everyone present in the lobby turn their gaze toward the entrance, expectant of what will clearly be one of the night's most memorable moments. Even the waiters, serving Dom Perignon champagne and Iranian caviar canapes, momentarily stop their work, instinctively feeling they are about to witness something extraordinary. When the driver opens the Phantom's door, the first thing that emerges is a Jimmy Choo emerald shoe that poses with absolute elegance on the red carpet extending from the sidewalk to the hotel lobby. The photographers begin firing their cameras frenetically, capturing every second of what they assume will be the arrival of an internationally important figure, while Sophia exits the vehicle with a grace that seems to emerge from some deep place in her genetic memory, as if the years of hiding had been only a parenthesis in a life naturally destined for this type of grandeur. Her chestnut hair in loose waves falls perfectly over her bare shoulders, framing a face that David's makeup has transformed into a masterpiece of sophisticated but natural beauty, while the emerald green Elie dress embraces her figure, creating silhouettes that make several men in the lobby drop their champagne glasses. The diamonds at her neck and ears capture the light from the baccarat crystal chandeliers in the hotel, creating flashes that seem to announce the arrival of a modern goddess in a world of mere mortals. Sophia walks toward the hotel entrance with measured and perfect steps, each movement calculated to project confidence, elegance, and a feminine power that doesn't need to be announced because it's felt in every fiber of the air surrounding her. Inside the lobby, Christopher Hamilton stands next to the Calacata Marble Bar, surrounded by his usual millionaire friends. Marcus Thompson, heir to a media empire. William Foster, mining magnate whose fortune exceeds the budget of several American states. And James Peterson, nephew of the richest family on the East Coast. The four men, dressed in Tom Ford tuxedos that cost more than a luxury car, laugh in anticipation of the joke Christopher has orchestrated, imagining the moment when his shy assistant appears dressed in some inappropriate outfit bought at some middle-class mall. "I can't wait to see your little secretary's face when she realizes everyone is looking at her for the wrong reasons," Marcus says, while taking a sip of 45-year-old Scotch whiskey. Christopher smiles with that refined cruelty that characterizes men who have never known the real consequences of their actions, checking his limited edition Patek Philippe while waiting for the perfect moment for his personal entertainment. His blue eyes scan the lobby, looking for Sophia's familiar figure, mentally preparing for the humiliation spectacle he has planned so carefully, not suspecting he is about to become the involuntary protagonist of a drama he will remember for the rest of his life. The conversation among the millionaires stops abruptly when they see a woman enter who seems to have come directly from the pages of Vogue Paris. An apparition so dazzling that even the most powerful men in New York are literally speechless for several seconds. Christopher looks toward the entrance and feels his brain momentarily disconnect, unable to process what his eyes are seeing. A goddess of classic beauty walking toward him with an elegance that surpasses any woman he has known in his privileged social circles. "Who is that?" Marcus whispers with genuine admiration, while William and James exchange looks of masculine astonishment at the appearance of this woman who clearly doesn't belong to their usual circle of acquaintances. Christopher feels his jaw literally unhinge when the woman approaches close enough for him to distinguish her perfectly made-up features. Her hazel eyes that shine with a confidence he had never seen before, and that soft but powerful smile that suggests secrets he doesn't understand. His entire master plan of humiliation crumbles in a matter of seconds because this woman doesn't fit any of his preconceived expectations about how a common employee trying to mix with high society should look. Sophia stops exactly 1.5 meters from Christopher, the perfect distance to create visual impact without seeming desperate for attention, and with a soft but perfectly clear voice says, "Good evening, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you for the invitation to such an exclusive event." The voice is the same Christopher has heard for 3 years, taking phone messages and organizing meetings. But now it comes from lips perfectly lined in crimson red that seem to have been designed by a Renaissance sculptor to provoke uncontrollable masculine fantasies. Christopher remains paralyzed for what seems like hours, but in reality are only seconds, his brain struggling to reconcile the image of the spectacular woman before him with the invisible employee he thought he knew completely. His millionaire friends observe the scene with a mixture of confusion and growing admiration. Clearly impressed by the elegance and presence of this mysterious woman, Christopher apparently knows, but has never mentioned to them. The realization that this goddess is his own assistant arrives at Christopher like a physical blow to the stomach, followed immediately by the devastating understanding that his cruel joke has just exploded spectacularly in his own face. Instead of humiliating Sophia, he is about to become the laughingstock of his own friends, who are clearly fascinated by a woman he had classified as invisible and irrelevant. While Christopher struggles to regain his composure, Sophia maintains that perfect smile that mixes professionalism with something new he can't identify. A serene confidence that suggests she knows exactly what she's doing and why. The other guests in the lobby begin to turn to observe this dazzling woman who has clearly captured the attention of the most powerful men in New York, creating a domino effect of social curiosity that extends throughout the elegant space of the plaza. The wives and companions of other millionaires study Sophia with that instant evaluation only high society women have perfected, analyzing every detail of her clothing, jewelry, makeup, posture, looking for clues about her identity and her place in the New York social hierarchy. However, what they find leaves them even more perplexed. All elements of Sophia's appearance scream real money, privileged education, and aristocratic lineage, but none of them recognize her from the usual social circles of the Manhattan elite. The dress is clearly European haute couture, the jewelry is authentic and valuable. Her bearing reveals years of international protocol education, but her identity remains a fascinating mystery that feeds collective curiosity. At that exact moment, when Christopher finally manages to close his unhinged jaw and prepare for some kind of coherent response, a masculine voice with an unmistakable Brazilian accent interrupts from behind Sophia. "Excuse me for interrupting, but I couldn't resist the curiosity of meeting the most beautiful woman of the entire evening." Rafael Costa, the most powerful real estate magnate in South America and heir to a fortune exceeding $4 billion, approaches the group with that natural confidence only possessed by men accustomed to getting everything they want in life. Rafael, 37 years old, with the physique of an Italian model and the charisma of a professional conqueror, delicately takes Sophia's hand and brings it to his lips with old-world gallantry that makes her smile genuinely for the first time all night. Rafael Costa from São Paulo. He introduces himself while maintaining Sophia's hand between his for exactly the appropriate seconds, according to the most refined international protocol. And I have the feeling this night just became infinitely more interesting. How will Christopher react, seeing the most coveted bachelor in South America clearly fascinated by his simple assistant? And what are Sophia's secret plans for the second part of this night that will change everything forever? Will Christopher be able to recover from this initial impact, or is he about to discover that underestimating Sophia Morgan was the biggest mistake of his entire privileged life? Don't miss it, as the deepest secrets will come to light, and true love will face masculine pride in a battle that will decide the fate of all protagonists. Sophia accepts Rafael Costa's hand with a radiant smile that illuminates the entire plaza ballroom, while Christopher watches from his table as if he had received a direct blow to the stomach. The eyes of everyone present follow every movement of the couple as they head to the central dance floor, where Rafael guides Sophia with the elegance of a true gentleman. Christopher grips his whiskey glass until his knuckles turn white, feeling for the first time in his life what total impotence means before a situation he himself created. His millionaire friends, who minutes before were mocking, anticipating the humiliating spectacle Christopher had promised, now exchange looks of astonishment and whispers of admiration toward the mysterious beauty, dancing as if she had been born to shine. The classical music fills the environment, while Sophia converses animatedly with Rafael in perfect Portuguese, demonstrating a sophistication that leaves Christopher completely bewildered. Rafael Costa, heir to a real estate empire valued at more than $1. $8 billion, can't take his eyes off Sophia while she speaks knowledgeably about emerging markets in Latin America. Sophia's intelligence shines as brightly as her physical beauty, creating a lethal combination that has the Brazilian magnate completely bewitched from the first moment. Christopher watches helplessly as his assistant, the woman he considered invisible and insignificant for 3 years, conquers the most powerful man at the entire party with a naturalness that seems to have been hidden for decades. Guests begin to wonder who this dazzling woman is, who arrived like a meteor to change the entire social dynamic of the year's most exclusive event. Raphael whispers something in Sophia's ear that makes her laugh with a crystalline laugh that reaches Christopher's ears like a stab directly to the heart. Christopher tries to approach the dance floor discreetly, pretending to greet other businessmen, but really looking for any opportunity to intervene in what he considers his personal territory. His movements are clumsy and desperate, very different from the arrogant security he had always shown at this type of New York high society social event. Sophia sees him approach from the corner of her eye but continues her conversation with Raphael as if Christopher were completely invisible, an irony that doesn't go unnoticed by the CEO, who now experiences firsthand what it means to be ignored. Social photographers capture every moment of the evening, and Christopher realizes that photos of Sophia with Raphael will be on the cover of all society magazines the next day. The media power he had always used in his favor now becomes his worst enemy, documenting his public humiliation before the elite that had always respected him. When the musical piece ends, Raphael escorts Sophia toward the main bar, where he orders 1998 Dom Perignon champagne while introducing his new companion to diplomats and international magnates. Christopher observes from a distance how Sophia handles each introduction with a natural grace. She never showed at the office, revealing facets of her personality that remained hidden during years of professional treatment. Sophia's physical transformation is impressive. But what really destroys Christopher is discovering that the emotional and social transformation is even deeper and more authentic. Raphael announces to his acquaintances that Sophia will be his special guest at the next Costa Foundation Gala in São Paulo, an invitation equivalent to officially presenting her to South American high society. Raphael's words resonate in Christopher's ears like a death sentence for any hope of regaining control of the situation. Christopher finally approaches the group where Sophia converses animatedly about contemporary Latin American art, feigning urgent need to speak with Raphael about international real estate business. Raphael receives him with diplomatic courtesy, but Sophia looks at him with a coldness that freezes the blood of the New York millionaire who had never experienced such contempt from his own employee. With a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, Sophia addresses Christopher with a sweet tone but loaded with hidden poison. "Mr. Hamilton, what a surprise to find you here. I hope you're enjoying the party as much as I am." Christopher tries to respond, but the words stick in his throat, while Raphael observes the interaction with growing curiosity and a smile suggesting he's beginning to understand the true dynamic between these two New Yorkers. When Christopher is about to respond, Sophia turns to Raphael and tells him with a seductive voice, "My dear Raphael, I think it's time you know the true story of my relationship with Mr. Hamilton. You're going to be fascinated." Sophia delicately takes the champagne glass Raphael offers her and positions herself between the two most powerful men at the event, creating an electric tension palpable in the refined ballroom atmosphere. With an enigmatic smile Christopher had never seen on her face, Sophia begins to narrate her work story with a completely different perspective than the CEO expected to hear. "Raphael dear, Christopher has been my boss for 3 years, and I must confess, it has been a very educational experience," Sophia says, with a tone Christopher can't decipher if it's praise or veiled threat. Sophia's hazel eyes shine with a new intensity as she continues. "Working with him taught me exactly what I don't want in my professional and personal life." Christopher feels as if each word were a public slap, but he can do nothing more than smile forcedly, while Raphael listens with growing interest to Sophia's revelation. Raphael Costa observes Christopher's tense body language and Sophia's elegant composure, immediately understanding there's a much more complex story behind this apparent coincidence at the party. Sophia continues her account with impressive naturalness, describing her work as executive assistant, but carefully omitting the most humiliating details of her daily work experience. "Christopher is a very demanding man in business," Sophia says, looking directly into her boss's eyes, always looking for ways to bring out the best in people who work for him. Christopher recognizes the double meaning in each of Sophia's words, but is paralyzed by the mastery with which she handles the social situation. Raphael begins asking questions about Christopher's company, showing genuine interest in Sophia as an independent professional, not just as a beautiful companion for the night, The conversation takes a turn Christopher can't control. While Sophia demonstrates deep knowledge about international markets she had never shared at the office. The most shocking revelation comes when Sophia casually mentions her previous experience in investment banking in London, information that leaves Christopher completely stupefied because he never really reviewed his assistant's complete resume. Raphael is fascinated to discover Sophia has an MBA from the London School of Economics and experience in international mergers and acquisitions, qualifications that make her a high-level executive disguised as a simple administrative assistant. Christopher begins to understand that for 3 years he had an overqualified professional working on basic tasks, and the humiliation of this public discovery is devastating to his ego. Sophia explains to Raphael she decided to take the job with Christopher as a back-to-basics experience after years of stress in the London financial world. The looks of admiration Sophia receives from other businessmen present confirm her transformation tonight isn't just physical, but the revelation of who she really had always been. Christopher tries to regain control of the conversation, mentioning important company projects, but Sophia gently interrupts him to correct some technical data, demonstrating she knows better than he does the details of his own business. Christopher's humiliation reaches new levels when Sophia reveals she was the one who really structured the last $1 million deal that gave so much prestige to Hamilton Corporation. Raphael listens with growing admiration, while Sophia explains complex financial concepts with a naturalness revealing years of experience in the world's most competitive sector. Christopher realizes all these years he had attributed to his own business brilliance achievements that were actually the result of Sophia's silent and invisible work. Other guests begin approaching the group, attracted by Sophia's intellectual conversation and Raphael's magnetic presence, while Christopher increasingly feels like a spectator at his own humiliation. The situation becomes unbearable when Sophia mentions she's seriously considering new professional opportunities abroad. Raphael takes Sophia's hand and kisses it delicately while telling her, "My dear Sophia, a woman with your talent and beauty deserves to be at the top of the business world, not wasting her potential on minor tasks." Christopher feels as if he had received a physical blow hearing this brutal but accurate evaluation of how he had treated Sophia during years of work relationship. Jealousy consumes Christopher not only for the romantic attention Raphael shows towards Sophia, but for the professional recognition he himself never gave his brilliant assistant. Sophia smiles radiantly at Raphael's words and responds, "You know what, Raphael? You're right. It's time I look for an environment where my value is truly recognized and appreciated." And Christopher understands with horror he's losing Sophia on all possible levels, as employee, as woman, and as the only person who really knew all his business secrets. When Christopher is about to desperately interrupt the conversation, Raphael approaches Sophia's ear and whispers something that makes her blush and nod enthusiastically, while Christopher watches helplessly as his world crumbles before his eyes. Christopher can't bear any more torture of watching from a distance as Raphael conquers Sophia with every word, every gesture, every smile he himself never bothered to dedicate to her during years of daily coexistence. Desperation drives him to follow Sophia when she excuses herself to touch up her makeup, taking advantage of the only moment all night when he finds her alone and vulnerable. The plaza's hallways are dimly lit, and the sound of gala music is heard distant, creating an intimate atmosphere that contrasts dramatically with the social environment of the main ballroom. Christopher catches up to Sophia near the hotel's outdoor gardens, where she has stopped to breathe fresh air after hours of perfect performance under social pressure. The full moon illuminates Sophia's face, revealing for the first time all night an expression of emotional tiredness that makes her seem human and accessible again. Christopher approaches, slowly measuring each step, because he knows this may be his only opportunity for a sincere conversation with the woman he now understands he never really knew. "Sophia, we need to talk," Christopher says with a hoarse voice she had never heard in 3 years of strictly professional work relationship. Sophia turns toward him with studied elegance, but her hazel eyes show a mixture of tiredness and curiosity about what Christopher could have to tell her at such a crucial moment. "What do you want to talk about, Christopher?" Sophia asks, using his first name for the first time in years, an intimacy that makes the millionaire's heart race uncontrollably. The garden is deserted, and the silence between them fills with years of unspoken words, avoided glances, and repressed feelings neither had dared to acknowledge. Christopher realizes this is the first time he's completely alone with Sophia outside the work context, and the vulnerability of the situation terrifies him as much as it excites him. Sophia waits for his response with a patience that contrasts with the desperate urgency Christopher feels running through his veins like liquid fire. For the first time in his adult life, Christopher Hamilton finds himself without prepared words, without business strategy, without the armor of arrogance he had always used to protect his true feelings. Sophia, tonight I realized something I should have known years ago. Christopher begins with a brutal honesty that surprises even himself. The words leave his mouth as if they had been imprisoned for decades, finally freeing themselves before the only person who could completely understand them. I invited you to this party to humiliate you, to mock you with my friends, to prove to myself I had power over your life, Christopher confesses, while Sophia looks at him with an inscrutable expression that terrifies him. The complete confession of his cruel plan leaves Christopher's lips like an emotional hemorrhage he can't stop once it begins. Sophia listens in silence, but Christopher can see in her eyes the confession doesn't surprise her as much as he had expected, which makes him feel even more miserable. I always knew what your intentions were, Christopher, Sophia responds, with a calmness that freezes the blood of the millionaire who expected any reaction but that supernatural tranquility. Sophia explains Isabella had alerted her about the conversations Christopher had with his friends, and that her transformation tonight was a calculated response to his planned cruelty. I decided to give you a lesson you'll never forget, but I also decided to free myself from 3 years of silent humiliations you never noticed, because you were too busy feeling superior, Sophia says with a dignity that destroys Christopher's heart. The revelation that Sophia had been aware of his contempt for years and had chosen to endure it silently makes Christopher feel like the most despicable human being on earth. Sophia continues, Tonight I didn't just want to show you who I really am. I wanted to prove it to myself after years of accepting crumbs of respect from a man who never deserved my dedication. Sophia's words cut like blades, but Christopher knows each one is completely deserved after years of unworthy treatment toward the most extraordinary woman he had known. Christopher takes one step closer to Sophia, and for the first time tonight can see tears threatening to emerge from those hazel eyes that have obsessed him for years without him even realizing it. Sophia, forgive me, Christopher says with a broken voice he doesn't recognize as his own. These 3 years, you've been the only real thing in my life of lies, the only genuine thing in my world of appearances, and I was too cowardly and proud to admit it. The confession becomes a desperate declaration of love. While Christopher tells her all these years, he had been terrified to recognize what he really felt for her, because it would mean admitting he needed someone else in his perfectly controlled life. Sophia looks at him with a mixture of surprise and pain because she can see in Christopher's eyes this confession is being torn from the deepest part of his soul. Christopher takes Sophia's hands between his, trembling as he had never trembled in his life, and tells her, I love you, Sophia. I've loved you for years, but I was too much of an idiot to realize it until I saw I could lose you forever. Just when Sophia is about to respond to the most vulnerable confession Christopher has made in his life, Rafael Costa's voice cuts through the night silence. Sophia, my love, is this man bothering you? He appears from the garden shadows with an expression suggesting he heard more than he should have. Rafael Costa walks toward them with the confidence of a man accustomed to obtaining everything he desires, while Christopher releases Sophia's hands and prepares for a confrontation that could determine the rest of his life. The tension among the three becomes palpable in the night air, with Sophia at the center of a silent battle between two of the most powerful men in the Americas. Rafael positions himself protectively near Sophia, but his gaze is fixed on Christopher with a mixture of curiosity and challenge, suggesting he heard enough of the conversation to understand the true dynamic of the situation. Christopher, right? Rafael says with an apparently cordial tone, but loaded with territorial authority. I think Sophia and I have plans for the rest of the night. Christopher feels blood boil in his veins as he understands Raphael isn't just claiming Sophia's attention for tonight, but positioning himself as her protector against the same man who had mistreated her for years. The irony of the situation doesn't escape Christopher. The man who had planned to humiliate Sophia now needs to compete for her attention against someone who values her from the first moment. Sophia observes both men with an inscrutable expression, clearly aware of the power she has at this moment to change the course of multiple destinies with a single decision. "Raphael," Sophia says with a soft but firm smile. "Christopher and I have a complex work history we need to resolve before I can move forward with any new opportunity in my life." Raphael nods with understanding, but his eyes don't leave Christopher, evaluating him as a predator, evaluates its competition before deciding if it's worth fighting or simply waiting for it to retreat. Christopher realizes he's being measured not only as a romantic rival, but as a man worthy of the respect of an extraordinary woman both desire to conquer. The conversation unfolds with diplomatic courtesy that barely hides the psychological warfare between two alpha males who have never really had to compete for something they couldn't buy with money. Sophia maintains control of the situation with a mastery that impresses even these two business titans, accustomed to dominating every social interaction they participate in. "Sophia," Raphael says while taking her hand and bringing it to his lips with a gallantry that makes Christopher want to hit him. "My offer stands for you to accompany me to São Paulo next week as my business partner and, if you wish, as something much more personal." Raphael's declaration of intentions is clear and direct, offering Sophia not only an escape from her current situation with Christopher, but a complete entry into a world of international power she could never reach staying in New York. Christopher understands he's losing the battle on all possible fronts. Raphael offers Sophia professional respect, international adventure, financial stability, and genuine admiration from the first encounter. Raphael's proposal represents everything Christopher had failed to give Sophia during years of daily coexistence, and the bitterness of this realization consumes him from within. Sophia listens to Raphael's proposal with a seriousness suggesting she's genuinely considering completely changing her life to start over far from everything she knows. Christopher realizes that if Sophia accepts Raphael's proposal, he won't only lose the best employee he's ever had, but the only woman who has managed to awaken genuine feelings in his heart, hardened by years of superficial relationships. Sophia remains silent for a moment that feels like an eternity for both men waiting for her response, aware her decision will irrevocably change the course of all their futures. "Raphael, your offer is incredibly generous and tempting," Sophia begins with a diplomacy that makes Christopher feel the ground vanishing under his feet. Raphael smiles confidently, interpreting Sophia's words as the prelude to an acceptance that will consolidate his victory over Christopher in this battle for the heart of the most fascinating woman he has known. But Sophia continues, "However, there are pending matters in my life I must resolve before I can commit to a new adventure. However promising it may be." Christopher feels a ray of hope pierce his desperation. But he doesn't dare interpret Sophia's words as a preference toward him over Raphael's tempting offer. Sophia looks alternately at both men and says, "I need time to think, to decide not only what's best for my career, but what's best for my heart." Raphael accepts Sophia's request with elegance, but not before whispering something in her ear that makes her blush, and that Christopher can't hear from his position. Raphael retreats toward the main ballroom after kissing Sophia's hand once more, but before completely disappearing, he turns to Christopher and tells him with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, "Christopher, I hope you know how to value what you have, because if you don't, there will be others who will." Raphael's words resonate like a warning and a promise, leaving Christopher and Sophia alone again in the garden. But now, with the additional weight of a decision that must be made before the opportunity vanishes forever. Sophia looks at Christopher with an expression mixing tiredness, expectation, and something that could be hope, waiting for him to demonstrate if he has really learned anything from the most humiliating lesson of his life. Christopher realizes this is his final moment, his last opportunity to prove the love he confessed is real, and not just the result of jealousy and wounded pride. Sophia walks slowly toward the hotel entrance, but before disappearing, she turns to Christopher and tells him, "If you really love me as you say, prove it with something more than words. You have until tomorrow at noon to decide if you want to fight for me or let me go forever." And she disappears into the night, leaving Christopher alone with the most important decision of his life. Christopher spends the longest night of his life awake in his penthouse, watching the sunrise over New York City while reviewing every moment of the past 3 years with Sophia, seeing for the first time the silent dedication, hidden intelligence, and unbreakable dignity she had shown even in the most difficult moments. The hours pass like centuries while Christopher understands he must make the most important decision of his existence: continue being the arrogant and superficial man he had always been, or transform into someone worthy of the love of the most extraordinary woman he has known. At 7 a.m., Christopher takes his phone and makes a call that will change everything. He resigns as CEO of his own company, transfers most of his shares to a charitable foundation, and liquidates his most ostentatious assets to create an educational scholarship fund for women entrepreneurs. The decision is radical and apparently irrational from any business perspective, but Christopher knows he must demonstrate with actions, not words, that Sophia fundamentally changed his life priorities. His millionaire friends will consider him crazy when they find out about his decisions, but for the first time in his life, Christopher doesn't care about anyone's opinion but Sophia's. At 11:15 a.m., Christopher arrives at Sophia's modest apartment in Greenwich Village, a place where he had never been because he had never bothered to really know his most valuable assistant's personal life. Sophia opens the door, dressed simply in jeans and a white blouse, without makeup and with loose hair. But to Christopher, she looks more beautiful than the night before when she dazzled all of New York high society. "You came," Sophia says with a sad smile, suggesting she didn't really expect Christopher to fulfill his promise to demonstrate his feelings with something more than empty words. Christopher hands her a folder full of legal documents detailing all the radical decisions he made during the night, from his business resignation to the creation of the charitable foundation that will bear Sophia's name. Sophia reads the documents with growing astonishment. Understanding Christopher literally dismantled his personal empire to demonstrate she's worth more than all the money and power he had accumulated during years of excessive ambition. Tears emerge from Sophia's hazel eyes as she realizes Christopher not only confessed his love, but sacrificed everything that defined his identity to prove the sincerity of his feelings. "Why did you do this?" Sophia asks with a broken voice, holding the documents representing the most radical transformation a man can make for love. Christopher takes Sophia's hands and responds, "Because I realized all these years I had a treasure working by my side, and I was too blind to see it. Because I'd rather be poor with you than rich without you. Because I want to build something real together with you, not from superiority, but from equality and mutual respect." Sophia cries openly while Christopher continues, "I'm not asking you to forget 3 years of mistreatment. I'm asking for the opportunity to spend the rest of my life proving I can be the man you deserve, not the one I was before." Christopher's brutal honesty contrasts dramatically with the arrogance he had shown for years, and Sophia can see in his eyes this transformation is genuine and permanent. Christopher kneels before Sophia in her modest apartment's living room and tells her, "I don't have an expensive ring. I don't have mansions to offer you. I don't have business power to share. I only have my naked heart and the promise to love and respect you as I should have from the first day you entered my office." Sophia takes Christopher's face between her hands, and for the first time in 3 years, she really sees him as the vulnerable man, capable of love, who was always hidden behind the mask of millionaire arrogance. Sophia helps Christopher stand and tells him with a smile that illuminates the entire room, "Christopher Hamilton, for 3 years, I waited for the man I saw glimpses of you in occasional moments to finally decide to appear. And although you arrived late, you arrived when I needed it most." Christopher embraces Sophia with a desperation containing years of repressed love while she whispers in his ear, "I accept starting over with you, but this time as equals, as partners, is two people who freely choose each other out of love and not convenience. Sophia's proposal is perfect for Christopher, who understands he must earn his place in her life day by day with consistent actions and genuine respect. Sophia confesses she rejected Raphael's proposal the night before because she realized that despite all the pain, Christopher was the only man who had really reached her heart. Raphael offered me a perfect future, Sophia says, but you offer me the possibility of building something authentic together, and that's worth more than all the perfection in the world. Christopher understands Sophia chose imperfect but real love over comfortable but passionless security Raphael represented. Together, they decide they will start a new company as equal partners, using Sophia's business intelligence and Christopher's connections to create something meaningful that helps other people. 18 months later, in an intimate ceremony in Central Park Gardens, surrounded only by family and close friends, Sophia walks toward the altar, dressed in a simple white dress that enhances her natural beauty, while Christopher waits for her with tears of happiness running down his cheeks. Instead of expensive flowers, Sophia carries a bouquet of wildflowers Christopher personally picked that morning, a simple gesture, but loaded with personal meaning, symbolizing how their love grew naturally after years of being ignored. When Christopher pronounces his vows, his voice trembling with emotion says, "Sophia, you taught me that true love isn't a conquest but a surrender. It's not power over someone but mutual empowerment. Thank you for waiting for me until I was worthy of you." Sophia responds with vows that make everyone present cry. "Christopher, you showed me people can change when love is stronger than pride. Thank you for turning our story of pain into a story of hope." When they kiss as husband and wife, fireworks illuminate the New York sky while a string quartet plays At Last by Etta James, and Christopher whispers, "Thank you for teaching me that true love was never a joke. It was the most beautiful gift life gave me, disguised as revenge." If this story touched your heart, I'd love to know what moment resonated most with you. Drop a comment sharing your thoughts. Have you ever witnessed someone transformed through love? Your stories inspire this community and remind us all that second chances exist. Let's keep this conversation alive because these moments of vulnerability and growth are what connect us all. Sophia not only recovered her dignity and found true love, but transformed the man who tried to humiliate her into someone capable of genuinely loving. Proving the most powerful revenge is making the one who hurt you fall madly in love with you and change completely to deserve you. May we all find the courage to become the best versions of ourselves for those who truly matter. And may we remember that authentic love requires vulnerability, sacrifice, and the willingness to grow beyond who we thought we were. Amen.